studies in the Revelation, the revealing of God's children, I want to say their walk, their pilgrimage from all their captivity to their freedom, and ultimately being free with God in the after a while. That's the main thing. Hope our minds are open and that we will receive with meekness God's engrafted words, because there's only they that are able to save our souls, right? All right. Let's have a word of prayer before we get into that, if I can get this mic on. Let's have a word of prayer. Eternal God in heaven, we're grateful that you've allowed us to see yet another day. And as you've allowed time to continue to roll, we pray, dear God, that we'll walk with a clear mind, we'll walk circumspectly, that we'll be able to avoid all the pitfalls of life, if not all or most, that we will not be broken and bruised, that we can be always striving to walk towards that prize that you have before us, laying aside all of the weights and all of the sin that beset us, that we'll have that patience, that spiritual stamina to continue to run that great race. We ask all of us be focused this morning, get something from your lesson, and be able to teach others and share that message with others. It's in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. We're in chapter 9. We did not get to finish chapter 8. We're going to go straight through the text in the New King James Version this morning. We'll highlight some things and go through others. I want to send you, I will, not want, but I will, send you a breakdown of the three major ideals of Christ's coming and his reign, and as Christians and as they continue to walk. So I'm going to get that to you this today. Hopefully no longer than this afternoon, no later. And so you'll have that as a comparison of the three major ideas of the ideal of the premillennial, the millennial, which is a Latin word for thousand, right? And so we'll work on that. I'm going to get that to you today. That will be a further explanation of today as we start chapter 9, because it here is encapsulated within those chapters is a good major part, a role of the millennial reign of Christ, as they would simply say. But we're going to look at it from not a premillennial point, but from an amillennial point, which is that straight up the Bible. And we'll look at it from a historical point, as I've often read numerous commentaries. I always so like to we go back to history, and of course the Bible itself, which is our book, and that's what we're going to do. All right. I wanted us to wrap up by way of review to chapter number 9. We've had all the trumpets blowing, and we're getting ready to take on the other ones. But at the end of the last chapter, chapter 8, we were talking about the ideal of problems coming, ensuing on them, and how they were going to have to pay for their transgressions, so to speak. And we're off in chapter number 8. Let's turn there right quickly, if you will. Then we'll move to chapter number 9. Revelation chapter 8, if I can find it myself. We've seen all of God's promises come. Just as Daniel said that God's kingdom, all nations will flow into it. We read about it in Acts chapter 2, when every nation flowed into the kingdom of Christ. Christ came, he broke down the middle wall, he took down the veil, and now everybody flows into it. It's not just a Jewish relationship with God. It is now a universal relationship with God. So you can imagine the Jewish nation at that time, for centuries, they have had this kind of exclusivity with God, this spiritual connection, at least in their minds, that they have enjoyed for all those periods of time. And now at this point, that God is including everybody. He's not only welcoming the Jewish nation, but he is welcoming the Gentile nation, which includes you and me and all other nations. So he welcomes them now. But the Jews are having a difficult time of dealing with that, as we see in all of some of the other epistles in Corinthians and in the other letters, Ephesians as well. They have a difficult time accepting that. However, it's tough. It took some attitudinal and it took some behavioral changes on the part of the Jewish nation, of Jewish people at that time. And so now we have the kingdom. Now we have that inclusive kingdom. Jesus taking down the veil. We can go into the most holy of holies. We've outside of those walls, outside those different courts, we've moved forward. We've gone to one space. We've moved forward into the next. So God has put us in a great place, all of us, both us Gentiles and the Jewish nation. So Revelation chapter number 8, let's look at that because I didn't get to finish that. We're talking about the trumpets sounding, the fourth trumpet sounding, and we get down to verse number 13. Can you show that? There we go. All right, so we're getting up around there. The fourth angel sounded, and the fourth angel sounded, and the third of the sun was struck, the third of the moon, and the third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. And I looked, and I beheld an angel flying through the midst of heaven. I don't know about you, but every time we look at Disney, every time we look at some kind of show, we always find these little angels. Valentine's Day, we always got angels with wings flying all over the place. We always look at it like that. But we're not going to just talk about it, guardian angel today. We need to get to the point that we're going to be talking about a death angel and how God utilized man to correct some problems of civilization, okay? He said, now here we go. Woe, woe, woe. 3 times. I don't know about you, but when my mama called me 3 times, I knew I was in a world of trouble. And when we look at this ideal of being woe, 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 what should that tell us? What does that indicate to us? What does it indicate? Is it going to be a good, peaceful landing? Is it going to be a good, warm welcoming? What is it going to be? It's going to be bad. Whoa, 1 time is enough. And Mom said, Son Thomas, that's it. She holler out, because I'm always in the field playing. She said, holler out, John Thomas. Everybody here, and everybody said, that's your mama. You better go home. So we already know. So when he says that 3 times, that's serious business. Serious business. So some serious things are about to take place upon this earth, among this Roman world, and people are going to really be problemed and really persecuted. Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth because of the remaining blast of the trumpet of 3 angels who are about to sound. Listen, they've already undergone some difficulty. They've already had some problems. But he simply said, listen here, if you think this is something tough, you haven't seen anything yet. Before the floodgates are about to open, and all of them are going to suffer even more pain, even more suffering, even more indignities. They're going to suffer it. If you think that was tough, you haven't seen anything yet. And I don't know about you, but when someone reveals that to me, and I know I haven't seen anything yet, that's scary. That is scary. And so he lays it out now. I got a lot of my history books here and some of the commentaries and things like that. So that's a good one. The 3 angels who are about to speak. Let's go to the next one. Chapter 9, verse 1. Just by way of that. Then the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star falling from heaven to the earth. We're not talking about some asteroid or anything like that. Some people will have you to believe that. Those who were of the premillennial mindset, that we're not talking about the changes or the climatic changes. We're seeing lights we've never seen before. Certainly all things are coming together. All the pieces to this puzzle is fitting. We indeed are in the last days. Well, I believe we're in the last days, but not in the last days as they would put it. So it simply says, in the fifth angel, we have had four, but now here come the last three. Sounded, and I saw a star falling from heaven. Generally, stars, what are we talking about? We're not talking about meteorites and that, like that. What are we talking about? Let's look at Isaiah chapter 4, verses 12 through 4. Isaiah, what did I say? 14, rather. Verses 12 through 14. We're talking about a star. Somebody's falling. Somebody's really going to hit the bottom. Somebody who have had some success in the past, now be somebody who had experienced some failures. And here are these people sitting here, what's going to go down? Man, we've seen people rise, we've seen people fall. And so here now he talks about a star, not those lights in the sky, but people who are dwelling among them. A star, right? Who has that in Isaiah, if you don't mind? 14, 12 through 14. All right, so this is before all of this, quote, in their mind, the rapture is about to proceed. We'll look at Isaiah. Anybody got 14, 12 through 14? If you don't get it, I guess I'm going to have to get it, right? You got it, Ken?
14, verse 12.
Yeah.
Oh, you are fallen from heaven, Lucifer, the son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You weaken the nation.
Okay.
For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God.
Mm-hmm.
I will also sit on the mountain of congregation on the farther side of the north.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want you to know in mind that most people think at one time this star was Jesus himself. He came down from the heavens, he dwelt among us, and that he was the one that's going to suffer a lot of problems, and he's going to deal with some persecution. And then later, God will revive this thing to leave it sparkling again. Well, that's a little different. I don't see that being that. I think Isaiah prophetically speaking. When we're talking about stars, we're not just talking about some inanimate object. We're talking about people. We're talking about a personality. We're talking about someone who's going to be residing and somebody who's going to be causing some problems. So when I'm looking at that point, if I'm looking at it from a millennial or a post-millennial kind of a standpoint, then I'm looking for this one person. And I'm looking for this person to come up, rising, good shining star, and then he has a big fall. Now, if you read in your history books, some of you will simply find that most of the people have referred to it as being Muhammad, the founder of the Islam religion. But I think we're going a little too far from that point. And even though Muhammad did kind of capture the Roman Empire and then make it his, understand that through all the upheaval and things like that, he did. However, they would simply say, this is Muhammad, H-O-M-E-T, then it became Muhammad. But the ideal of it is that they would say, this is him, coming from heaven. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit. What thing we do know is this. It's a personality. It's a person. He was given the key to the bottomless pit. Now, when I'm giving keys, that means somebody has the ability to do some things. They have the ability to open. They have the ability to close. They have the ability to unlock. They have the ability to really make things accessible or inaccessible. So here he is. He was given the keys to the bottomless pit. Now, when you're looking at the bottomless pit, you think that's not the good thing. And he opened the bottomless pit. And when he opened the bottomless pit, that's what happened. So what do we think about keys? The ability to open, the ability to close. He was given it. Let's look at Luke chapter 8, verse number 31. Keys open. You remember when Jesus told his disciples, he told me, son, I'll give unto you the keys, right? The ability, the person to stand there, the ability to be able to unlock, open someone's access, okay, to Christ and to God, to heaven. But now we got this person, this personality, this star who has the key of the bottomless pit, the abyss, a part of the Hadean realm that he has a control of. Now, we're looking at the ideal of all of this is about to break loose. Well, when you start looking at it from that point, here it is. It's about to all break loose because God gave him the keys to it, right? Who has that in Luke 8:31? Somewhere like that. My memory, like every time I cut my hair, I lose my memory. Who has that in Luke 8:31? I think that's the verse. Ken, could you get it for me? Do you have it?
They begged him that he should not command them to go out into the abyss.
All right, to go out into the what? The abyss. The idea, unseen world, Hadean world. Okay, so he opens it, right? There's the swine. They went up and heard a many swine was feeding there, and and what he didn't permit it. He commanded them to go out into the abyss, into the outer darkness, so to speak. And they're in different kind of a realm. Out of this world, we do know. Out of this world. All right, let's go back to the book of Revelation, chapter number 9. All right. So we got that abyss. We find that kind of up in there. We're working hard. He's fallen to the earth. Keys to the abyss. I also want you to somebody was said in the book of Revelation 3:7 that Jesus is the one who holds the key. And some people may simply say that not only that, but the apostles have the keys as well to certain parts of this thing that we're working with. Keys to the abyss, right? We're talking stars, personalities, not only that, but we're talking about people who have behavior as well. And if you ever go back and read the book of Jude, Jude verses 9 through 11, you'll find out how he talks about these people who had an attitude. They were truly stars shining. They were great personality that had the ability to impact people's lives negatively or positively. When you read that, he said, these are people who are stars, and yet they are people who are not behaving as they ought. So when we look at the ideal of stars falling, think about personality, people who have risen and people who fall. That's what we think about, okay? And so when we start thinking about that, then we'll start looking at it from a historical standpoint. We had the constant rise and fall of stars in the Roman kingdom all the time. That was a consistent thing. Up one minute, down the next. Some not lasting over a year or so. Up and down. There we go. All right. Anybody have any questions over that so far? About the Hadean realm? The keys? I don't know about you. He opened the bottomless pit and smoke rose out of the pit. Like smoke of a great furnace, so the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. That's an understandable thing. We can see that happening. I mean, we got all the climatic things going on. We got all the environmental things happening. Yes, that put a little dull to it. Yes, that keep us from seeing things through and as keenly as we normally would, right? All right, so let's move to the next one, if you don't mind. Verse 3 and 4. Let's look up at verses 3 and 4. Thank you. Then out of the smoke, locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power as the scorpions of the earth have power. They were given the power. They were commanded not to harm the grass. So what we got now, what's the significance of locusts? Has it ever been a big role of locusts in history before? God used locusts, right? God had that usage to deal with some people, deal with some environments. Hopefully that it will be a changing of people's mind and, of course, the way they behave as well. To them was given power, he said, as scorpions of the earth have power. This is a very venomous animal. I mean, when it strikes, it strikes. And when it does, it harms, it kills, it brutalizes, right? So here we got some people coming forth. God's going to allow them to come in and wreak havoc. But he's not going to allow it to be a complete wipeout. But he is going to allow a lot of damage to be done. And this person comes with an idea to do damage. When God sent his locusts among those people, he had in his mind to do some damage. When scorpions arise and he came through, he had in his mind to do some damage. So here we got a star who has the key to the abyss, to hit the end realm. Here we got a person that's coming up there now for the smoke and the locusts in there, tells of the story. Let's keep it all not only historical, but also the imagery that God is painting. Now you get to the point, is John a Gentile or is John a Jewish person? He's Jewish. So when they start talking about things like this and things like that, obviously John would ring in and the Jewish mind would ring in. That culture would begin to have its rate. So when he started talking about locusts, we understand that God sent forth some locusts. We understand the scorpion, very venomous. It's going to do a lot of damage. They were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth. Quite opposite of what we found out in the other ones when they blew that trumpet. These personality, they're not going to harm the grass of the earth or any green thing. They're not going to have any problem going on, all right? Or any tree, but only those men who do not have the what? The seal. We read about the 100 and how many thousand, 10, 20, how many thousand was it? 144,000. So we already had the seal of God on their head. At first he said, we're going to lift them out of this world, so no harm and danger come. But we later learn on a greater number that no one can number. So when he's sending, this star looks into it. He opens up this pit, so to speak. He sees the smoke darkens everything, but outside of that, he sees what's really going on. And he said, here's what's going to happen. God is not going to allow it to be a complete wipeout, but it will be enough for everybody to stand up and take notes. Hey, this is serious business, and if we don't watch out, we could be a part of it too. He said the grass or the green thing or any tree, but only those who do not have the seal of God on where? Forehead. It's about like, I don't know if y'all go to Walmart now, but I go to the Walmart. And when they get out there sometimes, they want to check your stuff. Or you go to Costco, or you go to some of these other places. Before you get out, what they want to do? They want to do a little scan on you. Want to make sure that you're right and that the things or the items that are in this cart is right and complete. They know about it. Okay, they can click it, they can see it up in there, they can check around. Yeah, that's it. All right. So at first it was 144,000. What's the importance of the seal? What does that mean? What's the importance of the seal? They're approved by God. God wants them. They're his. So we kind of have like our own religious barcode. He put a little hiccup on them, right? They got a seal on the head. So the ideal of it is that God knows they're his. Everybody, some other folks going to get it, but I want you to know, I want you all to know, I want you to do everything you can, but don't destroy them. You remember Job? God said you can do whatever you want to him, but don't do what? Don't kill him. So then God allowed his people to be punished, but he didn't want them to be just pummeled out of existence, right? Do not have the seal. The seal is what? What is the seal? Let's look at Esther. I think I wrote this down somewhere. Y'all have to help me with it. I'm getting old. Esther 8 and verse number 8. Let's look at that. Esther 8 and verse number 8. So we got a seal. You got this seal, right? When you go off to school, getting ready, going back, down there, hard and big time. All right. So when they get you down off and then you go through, they can just look up the little thing right here and tell everything about what's going on, right? You, what you going, what you going to, and how you liked it, what you attended, what you hoped to, got it all, right? They got it all on you. Okay. So when you run this religious barcode on them, he knows. And when I have this seal, you belong to me. You belong here. Therefore, you're part of this. And I have the authority to direct your course to a great degree. You're under my control. Let's look at Esther 8 and what it says. You yourselves write a decree concerning the Jews, as you please, right, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's signet. I remember Steve talking about that in a lesson not so long ago, about that sealing it with a signet. He makes his impression. When I see it, I know who it is, and guess what? I don't mess with that. I don't mess with that, because that's some bad problem right there, and I start messing with someone's seal, right? It's the king's signet, his ring. For whatever is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet, ring, no one can do what? They can't stop it. They can't revoke it, can't undo it. It is just his ring. It's his signet, God's authority. So we got this 144,000. I can't choose to take one away, and I can't choose to add another. It is what it is. God's people. All right? So these folks at the hearing going back, except the torment was like the torment of a scorpion, and it strike like a man. They were commanded not to harm the grass, all right? 5 months. That's the time. Who do not have the seal of God on their forehead? Who's going to get it? Those who don't have it. So these are the ones who don't belong to God. They suffer. It's not just that they always this and that, but it's just they don't belong to God, so they're going to suffer. How many millions of people suffer during all the transition of all the Roman kings and all their conquests and all their loss? How many folks suffer? He said, now, but only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads, and they were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them. Don't kill them. Just torment them to the point that they wish they were dead. Can you imagine being so tormented that you wished you could just die? Now, I've been in hospitals before, and I've been around people on their deathbed, and they're tired, and they'll let you know I'm tired. And I just simply say, it's okay to be tired. But here are these people. They're wanting to die, but can't. Can you imagine that? I just wished I was dead. That's how bad it was. It was right to the point, and when you get to the breaking point where you would think it, then they'll pull back and you don't die. Just tormenting. Can you imagine that? So, well, man, just go and kill me. Well, we're going to work you over, and by the time you think you're there, pull it back. Just kill me. I can't take this no more. The mental, the physical, right? The emotional impact of that. Somebody else wished they had died. What's his name? Over in the land of Uz, what's his name? Y'all know his name. Job. In those days, men will seek death and will not find it. They will desire to die, and death will not flee from them. Can you imagine? I want to die, but I can't. I just got to suffer through this. That's a miserable, horrible way to spend life, if you could call it that. That's a sad one, right? All right, 5.5 months. Let's go to the next, verse 9. I don't know what that time is, but we're all looking at what? Figures of time. So now if you sit around, okay, we're here in May. October is going to be over. Nobody would say that. Now, if that was the case, we might find a reason to hold on just a little while longer, but that's not the case. So when he's talking about 5 months, we're talking about a time that only God knows about. Even when things are going wrong, we still need to understand one thing. God is still in control. So 5 months, there's the duration. How long? I don't know. How long will we have to go? I don't know. Well, 5 months, he said 5 months, but John understands 5 months. That's a long time. He can't pinpoint it on the calendar. They can't look at the sun and trying to figure out, okay, this is about it. They can't do any of that. They just have to accept the fact that it's going to be. They had tails. Let's go back again. Let's kind of reverse that back there again. Now these scorpions coming back again. They had tails like scorpions, and there were stings, and their tail, their power was to hurt men 5 months. I don't know about you, but that's enough for me. I don't even want 2 months. I don't want 2 days, 2 hours. But that's what he says. The power is to hurt them. Can you imagine all the people going through all the sufferings? Well, they ought to be used to it. They were in prison. They was in captivity. The Jewish people were for how many years? Several times they've gone into Babylonia. They went off into this, went off into this. They ought to be used to this by now, but this is a different thing. We've gone through sufferings. Well, you're going to suffer more now, like never before. How could it be any worse? Just wait and see. It'll be worse than what it was. All right? Then these scorpions, one woe is past. Let's go back to that again. One woe is past. Behold, still 2 more woes are going. Let's look at verse 11 off in our text right here. If you don't mind, we got this right here. This woe, it done passed. It got 2 more remaining. And I don't know about you, but verse 11 is a big important verse. Let's look at verse 11, please. There we go. They're the king, right? And over them, and the angel of the bottomless pit. Angel of the bottomless pit. Whose name is Hebrew is, what's that word? Y'all pronounce it for me. But in the Greek, his name was, you can pronounce that for me. Whatever it is, the ideal of it is that either way you look at it, somebody's going to be destroyed. I don't know if you, though, Hebrew language, you understand. I know what that means. It's about to get bad. If you were a Greek person and you had all these ideals about your gods getting mad and angry at you and inflicting pain on you, guess what? It's about to get bad. It's not just for the Jews only, but also with the Greek. These are 2 names signifying destruction. They understand that. So nobody's left out. And boy, well, there's some bad times. And with the ideal, if this, quote, person who comes along and takes over, if this person is the Muhammad, as they say he is, then we need to be thinking about something far, far different than that. All right? So we look upon that. We know who we are. Job wanted to get away, wanted to die, Job 10, but God didn't let him die. He just went through it. He even wished he had been born dead, stillbirth. I just want out of it. You're talking about suffering. That's a sad way to go. All right, so we're talking about the contrast, right? I said before, we were talking about the angels of all the churches. Now we have a death angel coming about and really wreaking havoc among the people. That we do know. He's coming to destroy and to wreak havoc among men. Verse number 12. Any questions so far? Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Good. Yes. No. They're exempt. And that's why we had that seal, right? John says that this ideal of woe is that it's God's wrath upon people who are deemed at that time by God to be worthy of it because of their activities or inactivities. Either way it goes, you're right. Excellent point, John. That was the excellent point. Anyone else? Excellent point. Yes. Okay. Let's look at that. 2 Corinthians chapter 1.
And it is God that establishes us with you in Christ, and has anointed us, and has also put his seal on us, and given us his spirit in our hearts as a guarantee.
Seal in our heart. Guarantee. So in other words, there ain't no way that's going to go against what God had planned, right? So there are some guarantees in life. Well, that's a beautiful thing. Appreciate that. All right, that kind of goes like 1 Corinthians 9, 16 following as well, you know, in the sense that people are not doing right, but I like this guarantee. Appreciate that. That's some good stuff. Woe is past, right? Can you hear about that? Woe is past. Now the sixth angel comes along to sing, right? And now we got the sixth trumpet. Woe is past. And we're talking about around the east side. Am I not right? All right, we got the sixth angel, the voice from the heaven. Let's look at that one. Then the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice. Now, he sounded, but, you know, he blew the trumpet, okay? He sounded off, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God. We talked about that golden altar. Horn signifies what? Not everybody wants. Horn signifies what? Power. So we started looking at that, and we started looking at for his worship and everything, the temple, and all those kind of things. He talked about the four horns of the golden altar. We were talking about that, and I think John made mention also about the incense and all of the coals and things of that nature represented as far as God's concerned, if he's working with the people, and as far as their righteousness is concerned. The altar which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, who had the trumpet? Release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. Angels. Boy. What's so significant about the Euphrates? I mean, if you're talking about a Jewish person of that lineage and you said, man, the Euphrates, what would they be thinking about? And what would they be thinking about when they're looking back in time? And not only that, but if you were speaking to some of the Roman citizens, those whom are under their rulership, what would they be thinking about when they think about these Euphrates? What would they be thinking? Is that a big place? Is it a river? Or what are we talking about? Territory, right? Is that a Euphrates? Is that a river, right? But we're not just talking about the river, but we're talking about a whole scale of this ideal of the empire, of the ideal of the geographic reign of that. So they understood when they talk about the Euphrates, they knew where it was, and all of this land, all of these people had come under that rulership. So they know about the Euphrates, not just a river. It's just the ideal of people who have been conquered, about land that has now been overrun, and that these people were wreaking havoc upon that. So they will look at that and simply say, release the four angels who were bound at the great river Euphrates. Boy, that river was a great river as far as their history is concerned. All the things that are attached to that. Why? Because that's the way God intended for it to be. Deuteronomy 1, 7 through 9, write those down. We can even look at Genesis 15, verse 18. Write that down. But still, God is only letting them do what he wants them to do. So we got these problems going on. The horns, the power. We got people would say, hey, these are people who are children, the people who are, by God at this time, ruling. People who are controlling. And God has oftentimes allowed other people to take over his people because of what? Because of what? Because of their unfaithfulness. God has allowed other people to take over his people They was off in Egyptian bondage for a long time, right? So God sometimes allow other folks to take over his people because his people are really not going strong and following him. So now we got people, this angel, he said, if you think that's enough, we got 2 left, and here's the third one. So the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. Can you imagine angels? We would think angels are doing good things, not bad ones. We would think angels are people who are going to deliver us, not destroy us. But here he got his angels. They are coming. And they are going to kill a third of the mankind. Not 33 and a third percentage, as I asked my friend Chuck Ketchel about it. But it's going to be a great number of them. He's going to allow them to take care of that, to remove them. Now, the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. He said, I heard the number of them. I don't know about you. It wouldn't be, back in that time, that would be really something big. 200 million? That's a bad army. That's a loaded army. It's going to cause us a lot of problems. How are we going to escape that size army? Point of it is, you're not. There's a big army for a big reason. And that big reason was to clear all of those who were not faithful, deal with all of those, and you might believe it or not, who were dealing with unreal and unnatural gods. They had problems as well. So it's not like God's children were the only one that received some things, or so the folks around there, but these are people who profess to even be people who are following these false gods. They get part of the acts as well. Let's go to the next one. The 200 million. And thus I saw the horses in the vision. Those who sat on them had breastplates. Where we find that? We have on the, Paul told the Christians to get dressed up like a soldier. We're in a battle. We're in a war. This is a satanic kind of a thing we're dealing with. Breastplate. Listen. A fiery red, is that how you pronounce that? Blue, whatever it is. Sulfur yellow, and the heads of the horses like the head of a lion. And out of their mouths came fire and smoke, brimstone. By these 3 plagues, a third of mankind was killed by the fire and the smoke and the brimstone which came out of their mouth. Now, God even did that. They had the, what's that over the doorpost they had? We got to go. What's that over the doorpost they had? All right. And if you had it, God would do what? All right. If you didn't, you went down. That's where it is. So here we are right here. These people coming. They're going to kill by the fire, by the smoke, brimstone, which came out of these people's mouth. The horses, is not the horses did the killing, but the people who were on the horses. The horse is just a representation of those who were on them, how they were really having some problems, and they were really sticking it to them. And a lot of death and dying. And if you look at some historical fact, I have one book. It's called Ancient History by a person named Myers. If you look at that and read this history, that seems to flow right in line with all that John was seeing, and we saw it fulfilling itself centuries ago. I appreciate your time and participation. Hope we can get this finished here next week. I appreciate this so much.